Political violence and an uncertain world economy have dominated the headlines in recent years, but is that making us more reluctant to travel? Well, according to figures from the World Travel Market, there were more than 1 billion international journeys made in 2014, which is an increase of more than 4% on the previous year. It's thought that 2015 will turn out to have seen slower growth, about 3.7%. But Chinese travellers are big news. 84 million of them made international journeys in 2014, powered by increasing disposable incomes, of course. I'm joined now by Paul Nelson from the World Travel Market. He's here with me here in the studio. Welcome to you. Perhaps you should explain where the World Travel Market fits in. You're looking at the big picture.
That's right. So we run a big event in London, and that's where all the travel and tourism companies and tourist boards come over. So we see £2.5 billion of deals, signed contracts effectively, and it's those contracts that are on the websites and in the brochures where we all go on holiday the following year.
OK, so what trends are you seeing?
Well, we're seeing a big growth from tourists from China. So the tourist boards and the travel agencies are really looking to attract those Chinese tourists, because it's a Chinese tourist that once they're in resort, they really like to spend their money, they like to go shopping, and because they're new travellers, we're seeing a lot of growth there. So there's been double-digit growth in Chinese tourists since 2004. And that's expected to continue for the next 10 years at least. OK,
and I suppose everybody wants to know, what do Chinese visitors want?
They want good shops. You know, they want to see the Western brands, and they want to purchase and see that kind of Western culture. So that's what they want, really. They want good luxury hotels. They obviously have a completely different culture to some of the more traditional.
So they're not
markets.
necessarily looking for an authentic experience, but a very high-end experience.
They'd like a high-end experience, and the hotels are having to change some of their practices. So they're seeing more staff on reception that speak Chinese languages, as an example, and kind of really trying to adapt their practices to suit the Chinese market a lot more.
So what other trends are you seeing in terms of global travel? The countries which, so for example, Brazil is facing some troubles right now, China, of course, as we know, but Russia as well. What about those markets?
Yeah, so the Russian market and the Brazilian market, they were strong drivers of growth for the last few years.
What, in terms of tourists coming out of the country or people going in?
Tourists coming out, particularly the Russian market. So the Russian market over the last 10 years completely shook up the European market, which was traditionally the stranglehold of the UK and the German tourists. And the Russians came in and completely changed the way that was. So you had 3 sets of tourists kind of fighting for the sunbeds, if you like, on the hotels. But that's obviously gone back a lot now since the political problems over in Russia at the moment. And some of the key countries that the Russian tourists went to are also suffering some problems. So Egypt, as an example, and Turkey.
What about these security fears?
Well, surprisingly, as your intro said, people are still travelling. You know, 4% growth last year, 4% growth for the last 5 years. We're going to see nearly 4% growth this year. It's just changing where people are going to. So Turkey, unfortunately, is suffering because of its locality to Syria. So that's seeing people go to other destinations. Egypt is obviously suffering for some of the terrorism over there, but it's not stopped people from travelling. We're seeing the long-haul markets for the more traditional countries, so the UK, Germany, America, as an example.
And how do you see these trends developing? Do you see the market continuing to grow?
I think it will continue. So China's not going to stop growing, and the travel industry is going to have to cater its demands to meet those Chinese tourists even more. And the US saw a 9% growth in the last few years, so that's going to continue to grow as well, as will the UK and Germany. So it's a real mixed picture.
Thank you very much indeed.